Welcome to Potter's Field here at the Taylorsville City Cemetery. Since the 1970s, over 1,200 indigents have been buried here at the cemetery. Originally, Potter's Field was in this northeast corner, a very small area, but it has expanded as the city has grown the cemetery and made so much more of it than it was originally. Some of the people buried here have led sad and tragic lives. Some were elderly that died in nursing homes without family. Some were homeless that died alone on the street. Some were victims of murder. Some were just little babies born to poor families. Belinda McLeod, a high school teacher, wrote, "There is value in every human life. It is important to take care of the final arrangements for the unclaimed and impoverished. Whether the name of the deceased is known or not, the individual should be treated with respect. Proper care should be taken. Thank you to our city and the county for seeing to this." Just a few names that you might come across here in the cemetery that are buried without any known relatives are Armador, Collins, DeCiccio, Kessler, Lockery, Mattern, Skaggs, Sutaka. One such a person is Eric Jason Harper. The sexton had been updating some of his information on the website Find a Grave, and his half-sister was able to find him and make the connection. One of our residents here is Frankie Montoya, also known as Panchito. Frankie was a boxer, bantamweight boxer during the 1930s and 40s. After he left boxing, he came here to Salt Lake City, and he worked in the kitchens at the Hotel Utah. He died in October 1973, and about a week later, the Salt Lake Tribune sports editor, John Mooney, wrote this beautiful tribute to him. "Rarely has a death caused so few ripples. Frankie was as close to a non-entity as anyone could imagine. Most of the time, he didn't ask who his opponent of the night might be, or how much difference there might be in their weights. Frankie just smiled and did his best." Frankie almost always smiled, even through the blood and sweat after the decision was announced. If he spotted a friend among the reporters in the press row, Frankie'd stick his hand through the ropes to shake hands, and he'd smile. If someone said, "Nice fight, Frankie," he'd stick his hand out again and smile his thanks. Frankie always smiled. After fighting, Frankie was a dishwasher. When he had a friend in the eating establishment, Frankie would leave his suds and dirty plates and wave a greeting from the kitchen. He always smiled. Once he left his job, Frankie blossomed like a butterfly escaping the cocoon. He was a snappy dresser, almost a fashion plate in his way. Once away from the dishes, Frankie never was seen except in his best clothes. He never put the bite on a friend for a loan, and I never heard him complain. His life was his stack of dirty dishes, his spotless attire, and his smile. I will miss the little guy who always tried to do and look his very best, and who could smile when he had so few reasons to be smiling. Recently, a Taylorsville City cemetery worker placed this marker at Frankie's gravesite. For the past 2 Memorial Days, someone has decorated the gravesite of Leland Weeks. We don't know much about Mr. Weeks except that he died in 1888 and that he was a military man. His was one of 22 markers just like this, that are county markers, and were found just a couple of years ago. This one right here is for Ted L. Roberts. He died in some unknown month on the 3rd of 1970. Our sexton believes that with the addition of all the technology and people searching for their ancestors, the research she is doing for these names and these people is helping them be claimed and found. One daughter was able to get a headstone for her mother after realizing her mother didn't have one. There was a very nice headstone delivered for a man, and the person who had it made even included his birthplace. These folks are not lost or forgotten. There is value in every life, and every life deserves our gratitude and respect. Every life deserves celebration and recognition. These people had friends and contributed to their world, and it is up to us to take a moment from our busy lives to remember them. Thank you.